Good morning and welcome to all of our participants on this very special day, Veterans Day, November 11th, 2020 at 11. Due to COVID, we want to ensure the safety of all of our participants in our community. On behalf of the town of Plymouth, my town manager, and our select board, I welcome you. My name is Roxanne Whitbeck. I'm the Director of Veteran Services. I would also like to thank PAC TV for broadcasting this ceremony today for us so that people can enjoy this from the comfort of their home and be safe. Please be advised that PAC TV will broadcast this show Monday through Friday at 9 a.m., 12 p.m., and 4 p.m., and on Tuesday and Thursday at 10 p.m. and 4 p.m. Thank you again for everybody at PAC TV for making this possible. It was much coordination with Kim Mayat and Mark McKinley for making this come together. Thank you very much. Let us begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Call of God. Okay, put flags up.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I would like to welcome Phil Ryan, Chaplain, American Post 40, to read the opening prayer. Please say a prayer for all of those that are normally with us today, but can't be with us because they're not well enough.
O God, as we begin our ceremony, we seek thy counsel and guidance. Inspire us with thy wisdom. Rule over deliberations, we beseech thee, O God. Direct us and sanctify us by thy presence. Teach us to serve thee as thou deservest, to give and not count the cost, to toil and not seek for rest, to labor and not ask for any reward, save that of knowing that we do thy will. Amen.
Thank you, Phil. And now I'd like to read a proclamation from our governor. Whereas, since the Commonwealth's colonial days, thousands of men and women have served our country in defense of freedom and liberty. And whereas, on November 11th, 1918, the armistice was signed in the forest of Champagne by the Allied nations and Germany, ending World War I, the war that was to end all wars after 4 years of conflict. And whereas since that day, every November, people from all around the nation have gathered to honor our veterans. And whereas there are approximately 388,000 veterans living in Massachusetts. And whereas today we are reminded of the great sacrifices and contributions our veterans have made to our country. And whereas we honor and salute those of us that have served our country throughout generations with honor, patriotism, and courage. And whereas it is appropriate that all Massachusetts citizens remember the bravery of those who serve their country, so that their dedication and sacrifices serve as a reminder of the cost of our freedom. And whereas in November 2020, the world will commence the 102nd anniversary of the armistice that ended the fighting of World War I at 11 a.m., November 11th, 1918, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. Now, therefore, I, Charles D. Baker, Governor of Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2020 as Veterans Day and urge all of the citizens of the Commonwealth to take cognizance of this event and participate fittingly in its observance. Thank you so much. And now I'd like to play a recording to the salute of America's finest. Oh, no, sorry. Sorry, I mixed that up. No. Sorry, Phil. First, I'd like to introduce Miss Hannah Goodrich. She's going to sing our national anthem. She's a member of Plymouth North High School and the Northern Lights. Thank you so much, Hannah, for representing our youth today.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's day's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hannah. And now we're going to play a recording of the Salute to America's Finest. Thank you very much to Plymouth North High School Band under the tutelage of Bonnie Holmes for that, and we appreciate that very, very much today. Now it's time to honor our welcome speakers from each of the 5 branches. They will speak in precedence of the services and how they fall into order. Our first speaker will be Brian Sullivan from the United States Army. Brian is a retired lieutenant colonel. Brian?
Thank you, Roxanne. Good morning, everybody. The United States Army is the primary land-based military force. It was formed in 1775 when the Continental Congress decided that we needed professional soldiers to battle against the British. Since that time, the Army has fought in the Indian Wars, the War of 1812, the Mexican War from 1846 to 1848, the Civil War from 1861 to 1865, Spanish-American War, 1898, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. The Army stood guard during the Cold War in the early 1990s. Since that time, the primary focus has been on Western Asia, with the Gulf War and Desert Shield, Desert Storm in 1991, and after September 11th, the War on Terror, the incursion into Afghanistan, and Iraq in 2003. Been a lot of changes in our Army. After Vietnam, naturally, we went to the all-volunteer force and did away with the draft, at least for the time being. And the role of women in the Army is pretty significant. It's something that's really changed over the years. There's been 50 women since 2015 who have been awarded the Army's Distinguished Ranger Tab. Pretty good. A lot of anniversaries this year and next. The 70th anniversary of the Korean War was begun this June. We're in the middle of the 50th anniversary celebration of the Vietnam War. The 30th anniversary of the beginning of the Gulf War is next year in January, and the 20th anniversary of the beginning of the Afghanistan incursion starts in next fall. Now, all of these anniversaries are going to be celebrated at the National Museum of the United States Army down in Fort Belvoir, Virginia. The museum was supposed to open in June of this year, but due to COVID and coronavirus, it's been delayed. The opening is today, Veterans Day 2020. How appropriate. That museum will cover the Army's history in its 3 components, the active, the Guard, and the Reserve. And that brings me to my own service. My own service in the Army began in 1963 as an ROTC cadet at Northeastern University. I'll always remember that fall when the professor of military science came out, stood before our formation, and told us that President Kennedy had been shot. You could have heard a pin drop in that formation as all of the cadets wondered what was going to become of our country, what was going to become of us. We found out a few years later. After graduating from Northeastern, I went to Fort Gordon, Georgia for Officer Basic, Military Police, and then was assigned to a Cold War assignment at Seneca Army Depot in Romulus, New York, where I was a escort officer for special weapons, classified ammunition up and down the East Coast. Then went to the hot war in Vietnam. After Vietnam, I joined the National Guard full-time and was privileged to participate in some very significant missions as a guardsman. We had papal security for a visit from the Pope in Boston. I was the Race Relations Equal Opportunity Officer for the Mass National Guard and had to train our soldiers for deployment to the streets of Boston during the desegregation of the school system. And most significant, I think, was service here in Plymouth during the blizzard of '78 with the Plymouth Police Department down on White Horse Beach as we were protecting some of the homes from looters in the aftermath of the storm. Afterwards, I went to the Worcester Polytech Institution, went back on active duty from 1981 to 1985. I was the assistant professor of military science and commandant of cadets at WPI, training the Army's future leaders. From 1985 to 1988, I went back to the Guard. Again, we performed a support mission to Hurricane Gloria, and we had several support missions to the United States Military Academy at West Point. 1988 to 1983, to 1993, excuse me, I eventually retired as the Provost Marshal of the 94th Army Reserve Command. We had very exciting missions. We supported the Desert Shield Desert Storm operation. We also had the counter-drug and anti-narcotic mission. I'm very proud of my service in the United States Army for two reasons. One is it provided me an opportunity to participate in some of the more significant events in our nation's history over the past 20 or 30 years. It also provided me an opportunity to continue a legacy of service to the United States Army, which began with my dad during World War II, continued on through my own service, and then my son graduated from Northeastern University from its ROTC program, the same program I was in. Brian Sullivan, Jr., he lives down in Cedarville. He went on to become a captain, served in Germany during the Kosovo crisis in the late 90s. So when I think of the United States Army, I think of it as family. And I like to reflect on the service the Sullivans gave to that proud institution. So thank you. God bless America. Go Army.
Thank you, Brian. And now I'd like to introduce Phil Ryan, United States Marine Corps veteran.
During the American Revolution, the Continental Congress passed a resolution stating that 2 battalions of Marines be raised for service as landing forces for the recently formed Continental Navy. According to tradition, Tun's Tavern, located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, was where the U.S. Marine Corps held its first recruitment drive. On November 10, 1775, the Second Continental Congress commissioned the innkeeper, Samuel Nichols, to raise 2 battalions of Marines. The First Continental Marine Company was composed of 100 Rhode Islanders commanded by Captain Nicholas. Each year on November 10th, U.S. Marines worldwide toast the memory of this colonial inn as the official acknowledged birthplace of their service branch. The earliest Marines were deployed aboard Continental Congress Navy vessels as sharpshooters because they were typically recruited as outstanding marksmen. After American independence was achieved in 1783, the Continental Navy was demobilized and its Marines were disbanded. In the next decade, however, increasing conflict at sea with the revolutionary France led the U.S. Congress to establish formally the U.S. Navy in May of 1798. 2 months later, on July 11, President John Adams signed a bill reestablishing the U.S. Marine Corps as a permanent military force under the jurisdiction of the Department of the Navy. Since then, the U.S. Marine Corps has participated in all the wars involving the United States and in most cases were the first soldiers to land on foreign shores. In all, Marines have executed more than 300 landings on foreign shores. Today, there are more than 200,000 active duty and reserve Marines divided into 4 divisions. Each division has 1 or more expeditionary units ready to launch major operations anywhere in the world. They are ready at all times and move at a moment's notice on land, in the air, and on the sea. Their motto, Semper Fi, means always faithful. Lastly, no person in the Marine Corps is called an ex-Marine or former Marine. We are once a Marine, always a Marine. I'm very proud to be a Marine and state that today, November 11, makes the United States Marine Corps 245 years and 1 day old. Semper Fi.
Thank you, Phil. And now I'd like to introduce Denis Russell, United States Navy veteran. Welcome, Denis.
Good morning and happy Veterans Day. I'd like to thank Roxanne Whitbeck, our Veterans Agent, for helping and getting us together to organize this. There's a great deal of planning that goes into something like this, especially in these unusual, let's say, COVID days. I'd begin with my comments, but first I would like to say a shout out, or give a shout out to VFW comrade, also a member of our honor guard, Tony Cassiano. Now, Tony Cassiano is fighting yet another battle, and that is with Agent Orange, as many of us do. As I looked at the statistics, over 1.6 million men and women participated in the Vietnam War. There's about 22% of us still alive. Tony, God bless you. Failure's not an option. You'll beat this. Today we honor all the men and women of our armed forces, those veterans who have served with honor and distinction, preserving the freedoms we all enjoy. I have the honor of speaking about the United States Navy and some of my service. The history of the Navy is actually divided into two periods. It's the Old Navy, which goes back to the Civil War, and the ironclads, and the New Navy, where modernization efforts began in the 1880s and resulted in the largest Navy by 1945. We claim October 13, 1775 as our birthday. The United States Navy has participated in many wars and conflicts, including the First and Second Barbary Wars, the American Civil War, and of course, World War I, World War II, where a very large flotilla entered Tokyo Bay. And aboard the USS Missouri signed the Declaration of Peace. We had over 1,600 warships at that time. In more recent times, the Navy played a very important role in Korea, Vietnam, as well as the First and Second Persian Gulf Wars. The modernization of our Navy is second to none, with nuclear power, modern propulsion, as well as stealth technology. I'm proud to say that our men and women who have served and serve today are also second to none. Just a brief story about my own experiences in the Navy. My service was during the Easter Offensive of 1972 in Vietnam. We had escorted the Kitty Hawk across the Pacific through a very fierce typhoon. On March 30th, 1972, we were one of the first gunline ships to fire against North Vietnamese. We provided troop support, defended the Dong Ha Bridge, as well as taking out 4 enemy tanks by the Qua Viet River. On April 16th, we conducted a very important mission to take out the SAM site, surface-to-air missiles, on the Do Son Peninsula. And that's just south of Haiphong, which is basically the harbor that's related to Hanoi. This would allow our jets to mine the harbor of Haiphong, and this would prevent the communist nations from continuing to supply the North and encourage all parties to return to the Paris Peace Accord. The talks did resume. We were successful in that mission. Unfortunately, the next day we were hit on a mission north of the DMZ, killing 1 and wounding 7 of my fellow shipmates. When we took our oath of office, we may not have known where we would serve, but we were all willing and continue to be willing to place our lives on the line for you and for your freedoms. That dedication stands true today. I want to thank the men and women of all the military branches for your service, and a very special thanks to our families, friends, and loved ones who stand with us here today and always. They provide the support we so very much appreciate. Thank you very much, and happy Veterans Day.
Thank you, Denis. And now to speak on behalf of the Air Force, Andy Oliveri, retired Air Force veteran.
Thank you, Roxanne. Thank you all for being here today to celebrate this day. A few points about the United States Air Force. It is the aerial warfare branch of the U.S. Armed Forces. In 1907, it was designated the Army Air Corps. The Air Force was established as a separate branch of the U.S. Armed Forces on September 1947 with the passing of the National Security Act of 1947. It's the second youngest branch of the armed forces and the fourth in order of precedence. Its core mission, air superiority, global integrated intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance, rapid global mobility, global strike and command control. Along with conducting independent air operations, the Air Force provides air support for land and naval forces and aids in the recovery of troops in the field. As of 2019, the Air Force operates approximately 5,800 aircraft, 150 drones, 2,100 air-launched cruise missiles, and 460 ICBMs. With a budget of $156.3 billion, it's the second largest service branch, and it's got over 330,000 active airmen, 70,000 reservists, 107,000 Air National Guard, and 174,000 civilian personnel. The Air Force also boasts the highest percentage of female personnel of all the armed forces. Currently, there are 67,566 female personnel. And by the way, as it is in most of the branches, all personnel are called airmen regardless of gender. The Department of the Air Force has a proud history and long-standing record of providing the best space capabilities in the world. And on September 1st in 1982, it established the Air Force Space Command. With its space operations, the focus is on missile warning, launch operations, satellite control, space surveillance, and command control for national leadership. In 1991, the Operation Desert Storm validated the command's continuing focus on support to the war fighter. It continues to provide extensive space-based support to the U.S. Central Command in areas of communications, positioning, navigation, timing, meteorology, and warning. 2005, the Air Force expanded its mission areas to include cyberspace, which is so important today. The responsibility for conducting cyberspace operations was assigned to the Space Command through the 24th Air Force. Further, in July 2018, the Air Force Cyber Mission transferred the Air Combat Command, which generated the greatest capacity for all integrated information warfare capability within the Air Force. This move allowed the Space Command to focus on gaining and maintaining space superiority and outpacing our adversaries in the space domain. Finally, with the enactment of the National Defense Authorization Act, the Air Force Space Command was redesignated as the U.S. Space Force on 20 December 2019, just 11 months ago. This launch of the U.S. Space Force propels the United States into a new era of superiority in defense of our country and our allies. Today, the United States Air Force is the largest, most capable, most technologically advanced Air Force in the world. I am proud to have served in the U.S. Air Force from July 62 to July of 66 with the 6915th Security Service during the Cold War era. I served in Germany, making sure that at that time, Russian, East German, and Czechoslovakian Air Force were not in any way impeding the ability to fly in and out of Berlin. It was a rewarding and honorable learning experience. The U.S. Air Force Security Service, whose motto is freedom through vigilance, continues this mission on land and in the air to protect and preserve the peace of our great nation. God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. And last but certainly not least, to represent the U.S. Coast Guard, Emcee Chief, retired Joel Ferguson.
Happy Veterans Day, everyone. I'm Joel Ferguson. I spent 22 years on active duty in the U.S. Coast Guard and retired in 2014 as a Chief Maritime Enforcement Specialist. I'm a combat veteran, having served in Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. I'm proud to say I come from a family of those who have served their country. Both my grandfathers are combat veterans, having served in the Navy and the Army. My father-in-law is a Navy veteran, my brother-in-law an Air Force veteran. Today, I continue to serve as a civilian support specialist for the Air Force. While some of the lingo and terminology are different between the branches, the camaraderie is the same. The U.S. Coast Guard is the maritime security, search and rescue, and law enforcement branch of the Armed Forces. It is the only military branch outside the Department of Defense. Still, it can be transferred to the Department of Navy if Congress stipulates when declaring war or the President directs. The military head of the Coast Guard is the Commandant, assisted by the Vice Commandant and the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard was founded as a military branch on 4 August 1790 as the United States Revenue Marine, before being renamed on 31 July 1894 as the United States Revenue Cutter Service. On 28 January 1915, it was merged with the United States Life-Saving Service to form the United States Coast Guard. In 1939, the United States Lighthouse Service was incorporated into the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard was organized under the Department of Treasury, transferring to the Department of Navy during World War I and World War II. In 1967, it was transferred to the Department of Transportation, where it would reside until 2003, when it was permanently assigned to the Department of Homeland Security. The Coast Guard is only slightly larger than the NYPD, and with only 51,000 service members, we're the smallest service by about 187,000 people. By comparison, we have only 24 enlisted ratings to the Navy's 93. Due to its size, all officers and enlisted members must take on far more responsibilities than they're trained for. The Coast Guard deploys worldwide and continues to serve in all of our nation's wars and conflicts. The Coast Guard is unique in that it provides an ongoing peacetime mission as well. While the other branches stand down, the Coast Guard remains on watch, ever vigilant and ready. At any given time, there are Coast Guardsmen deployed across the country and world supporting primary missions such as maritime security, drug interdiction, search and rescue, defense, migrant interdiction, and ICE operations, and others. Former Coast Guard Commandant Robert Papp Jr. said, "We protect those on the sea, we protect Americans from threats delivered by the sea, and we protect the sea itself." The Coast Guard is prepared to deploy with virtually no notice. Before the dust had settled at Ground Zero on 9/11, the Coast Guard conducted an evacuation of over 500,000 citizens from Manhattan to mainland New York City with the aid of civilian vessels. They were the first agency to respond to New Orleans following Hurricane Katrina, saving 33,000 lives. On average, the Coast Guard annually responds to 20,000 search and rescue cases, rescuing approximately 4,000 people. Today is a day to not only honor veterans, but also to say thank you to those who enable us to do our job, to recognize our spouses who maintain the home front while we're called to urgent duty for days, weeks, or months. To them, every day is Veterans Day, as they hold unwavering support to their spouses and significant others. Also to recognize our children who spend much of their childhood with a deployed parent. The official Coast Guard motto is Semper, Paratus, always ready. Coast Guardsmen know a more common unofficial motto, an interpretation of a statement from the regulations of the Life-Saving Service of 1899. That phrase is, you have to go out, but you don't have to come back. I'll leave you with my favorite quote from American revolutionary John Paul Jones, which is, I wish to have no connection with any ship that does not sail fast, for I intend to go in harm's way. To all those who have served and continue to serve, happy Veterans Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you all for coming today and speaking about your service and sharing your stories with us. And now I'd like to reintroduce Phil Ryan to present the closing prayer.
As we depart from one or the other, may God bless us and keep us. And to his gracious protection we commit ourselves. May he be near us to defend us, with us to refresh us, around us to preserve us, before us to guide us, behind us to justify us, and above us to bless us, and keep us from all evil. Amen.
Thank you, Phil. And now for taps, which will be played by Mike Bartnowski.
Elegant, man, foot, freeze hand, arm. Good, ready, go, water, arm.
This concludes our Veterans Day celebration. I just want to thank everybody for coming out and thank everybody who's able to tune in at home for the COVID and keeping everybody safe. And hopefully next year this will be a story we can just all talk about. Please go and enjoy this beautiful day. And remember, freedom is not free. And thank you all to our veterans. Thank you so much for coming.